So you have to write a denial letter. I know it's kind of confusing, you might not know where to start, and there's a lot that you need to include, so I'm going to help you out in this video. When it comes to being a rental property manager, one of the main responsibilities that are included are having to choose whether or not to accept rental applications. Apart from that, property managers also have to specify the reason for sending the tenant a denial letter or an adverse action letter. So today I'm going to help you with all parts of the tenant rejection letter, along with the reasons a landlord or property manager may have to send one. We also discuss the protections that the applicants have when it comes to receiving an adverse action letter. So first off, what is a tenant rejection letter? In the simplest terms, a tenant rejection letter is a formal document that is sent by a landlord or property manager that states to the applicant that their rental application for tenancy has been denied. Also called an adverse action notice, these notices can be given out for various reasons. When writing a denial letter, it is important to keep in mind that it is a legal matter. This means that you must proceed legally, professionally, and justly. If the screening process is done incorrectly, it could result in a legal retaliation by the recipient. As long as the reasons are fair and legitimate, you can deny any one of your applicants. Here are some reasons to send a tenant rejection letter. First is their gross income is inadequate. One of the most important duties of the tenant is to pay the correct rent in a timely manner. If the property owner concludes that the applicant does not make enough income, they can get rejected. Generally speaking, the rent that a tenant pays should be about 1/3 of their total income. If the rent is higher than that, the person reviewing the rental application will have to dig deeper. Ultimately, this research is to find out whether or not they should rent to the applicant. Number 2 is an incomplete or inaccurate rental application. Usually this is done as a mistake and the property owner should reach out to the applicant first. However, the applicant may have purposely left some fields blank to try to hide something. If this is the case, the property owner has sufficient grounds to reject them. Also, it is possible that the tenant provided information on the rental application that was untrue or was inaccurate. Again, this could be done by mistake and the applicant should be contacted to clear this up. If it was done on purpose, it's likely that the applicant will get denied. Third is missing documents. When filling out a rental application, it's possible the property owner requests certain documents. These documents could include pay stubs, bank statements, ID, rental history, etc. If the applicant does not include the requested documents in the rental application, it may be a sign that they will not match what was stated in the application. If this is the case, the rental application will most likely be rejected. Fourth is an unacceptable credit history. One of the most important aspects of an applicant is their credit score. This number is the most accurate indicator of the applicant's financial responsibility. It helps the property owner know whether or not the tenant will pay rent on time. If the applicant's credit score is low, this is an indicator that the applicant may not pay rent on time. If it's low enough, this could be enough reason to reject the applicant. However, asking for the proof of financial responsibility may be a good idea in this stage. Also, under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it is possible for the applicant to refute or dispute certain information. The applicant can claim inaccuracy in the report that was used to make this decision. If that's the case, the applicant must request a copy of the credit report from the reporting agency within 60 days of receiving the letter and contact the property owner. Fifth is lack of employment details. Apart from the credit score, details about the applicant's employment are very important for determining an applicant's financial responsibility. Without proof of these details, it's hard for the property owner to decide whether or not the financials reported in the rental application are accurate or not. It may also be helpful to request reference from the applicant's place of employment. If the references for the applicant are not positive, this could be grounds for rental application to be rejected. 6 is overdue debts or obligations. Part of an applicant's credit report includes any overdue debts or obligations that an applicant still has to pay off. If the applicant has too many debts or obligations that are yet to be paid off, the property owner may choose to reject their rental application. And note that though this is tied to the credit score, they are not necessarily the same thing. Even if the applicant has a high credit score, they may have loads of debt that they have to pay off, and the property owner may deem that adding rent to the debt would be too much. Number 7 is an unacceptable lease agreement. When an applicant applies for tenancy, they may not agree with some of the terms in the lease agreement. For this reason, they may request some changes to the agreement, like the length of stay, rent, etc. If these changes are not acceptable by the property owner, this is a very good reason for the applicant to receive the adverse action notice. Although the property owner or landlord can be flexible with their agreement, it may eventually become unacceptable. If the applicant is not able to conform to your needs, it is clear that they will be rejected. And number 8, some miscellaneous reasons. If the reason for sending out the denial letter is not on this list, you are able to include your reason in a separate field. As mentioned before, it must be a valid reason and they must be be notified about the rejection no matter the reason. Let's hop into some invalid reasons. These reasons cannot be justified to send a denial letter to the applicant. Some of these reasons include race, religion, age, ethnicity, gender identity, marital status, and sexual status. Also, it is possible for a property owner to discriminate against certain groups of people and deny them tenancy for reasons not listed here. This is called arbitrary discrimination. For example, it is illegal for a property owner to deny tenancy to a group of people because they have body piercings. This is considered a type of discrimination and is illegal to take part in. Now that we know why a property owner would send out a denial letter, it's time to learn about what rights the applicant has when applying. So when writing an adverse action, it's crucial that you describe to the applicant all the rights of the protections they have. They may use this to dispute some of the information that was used to make the decision. So let's talk appeals. If the applicant strongly believes that the acceptance criteria was wrong, they can appeal the decision made by the property owner. Although it's likely the decision will not change, it may be worth it for the applicant to try if they're confident about their qualifications. However, it is important to understand that as a property owner, it is up to your discretion to accept appeals or not. The Fair Credit Reporting Act is an act that helps consumers understand why and how their information is being used. In this case, it allows consumers to know how their information, especially their credit report and consumer report, was used in the decision-making process. It is vital to include information about this act in your letter, along with information about the reporting agency where it was obtained. In this section, the name and phone number at minimum of the reporting agency should be included to allow applicants to contact them if necessary. So after going through some of those rights we just discussed, you may still want to include some information on where to find other rights. You might want to reference things like the Fair Housing Act that may help the applicant from an appeal against the decision. You can also include information about where to find information on the local laws and regulations that exist where the applicant resides. So now that you know everything about the rental denial letter, let's discuss how to actually write it. When it comes to actually writing the adverse action notice, it may be a whole lot more technical than you may expect. There are many things that should be included in each letter, and it's important to stick to the rules for every letter. First is the introduction. One of the first things that should be included in your denial letter is the information of the person that is going to be receiving the notice. This information should include the applicant's name, address, city, state, and zip code. Also, it's important to include the date at the top for record-keeping purposes. After that, you could write some messaging to the applicant, thanking them for taking the time that they took to submit the application and explaining that they are being denied the tenancy. It is also important to include the property's address in this section just in case they have multiple applications. Next, you should list your reasons you have for the decision that you made. If you receive a large number of applications on a regular basis, it may be easier to list the most common ones and just check the ones that apply to this applicant. It's important that you choose the reasons for your decision very carefully, as it can be disputed under certain conditions. Third is appeals. So next, if you decide to deny them, you can include information on how the applicant can appeal the decision. You should give some sort of time period and a person to contact when explaining their option to appeal. Fourth is their rights and protections. In this section, it's essential to include an accurate description of the rights and protections given to the applicant by the government. You could include information about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Fair Housing Act, or any other legal information you find necessary. This is an important section because if not included, the applicant can claim that they were not made aware of the rights that they had. Fifth is your ending statement. So lastly, it's nice to include some statement for the applicant, offering someone to contact with general questions or inquiries. You may also sign at this point to add to the formality of the document. And if you want to download a free template of the letter that I mentioned, then you can just click a link in the description. When you have to deny an applicant for a rental property, there must be a lot of caution and attention to detail to make sure no mistake is made. As soon as mistakes are made, the whole process can turn into an ugly legal matter, which is not in the interest of any party. For this reason, it's really important to follow the guide I mentioned in this video, ensuring a smooth rejection for an applicant. And if this video helped you, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more property management content. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!